like to welcome you all to the 2025 UOVC Grants RFP training. My name is Tally, like I said, and I am the Assistant Director Grants Administrator here at UOVC. This training is being recorded and will be posted to our website later on. And as a matter of having a real hard time talking this morning. As a matter of accessibility for our interpreters, we will be turning our cameras off while we will be presenting so that you can all see the slides as well as the sign language interpretation. So with that, I'm going to turn off my camera and we're going to put up the slideshow. All right, here we go. Welcome, everybody, again. I wanted to start by walking some of y'all down memory lane. I attended my first UOVC Grants RFP training about 15 years ago. And some of you were around, I remember y'all. And for those of you who are around can attest that trainings looked very different back then and have changed quite a bit until now, even in just the last 5 years. I don't know if any of you all remember making 7 copies of the application and rushing it to our office before the doors closed at 5. Shout out to anybody who did that. You know, those were good times, and we're really excited some of our processes have improved, especially when the copier decides to jam on grant day. So changes are a part of life. Every single day, every single minute, it feels like we're always adapting, and we have some more changes, good changes to bring to you today. So we wanted to have this session to let everybody know what will be the updates and what will be some of the things we'll keep the same. So I wanted to take a moment to highlight some changes to the RFP training. The live training session this morning is just one part of several tailored training sessions for the 2025 RFP process. This year, for the first time, we have a total of 5 grant programs opening at the same time. That's really exciting, but it's also a lot of things. So rather than packing all of that information into one long online session, we've broken it into recorded videos so that you can find those on our website. Later in this training, we will walk you through where you can find those resources so you can easily access them. Make sure to take the time to review all of the written and recorded materials, as they will be essential for submitting a successful grant application. So the main message we'd like to let you all know today is that the training today, albeit quite short in comparison to years past, is not the only thing that's out there. It's really going to be out there on the website. There's videos, there's written materials, there's a lot of things. Make sure you look through all of that information. As mentioned previously, there are 5 separate funding sources that will be available with different requirements on each. 3 of those funding sources are federal funds, our VAWA, SASP, and VOCA programs, and the other 2 are state funds, which are our state sexual assault and state victim services programs. Make sure to pay attention in this training when we are talking about each source, because some of those guidelines might differ for each one. This main training is for all of our grants, but at a time we might say it's just applicable to federal grants or just applicable to VOCA grants, etc. All right, next slide. Okay, so here's what we're going to do today. There's a chance we may finish early or possibly not, but here are our main tasks to do. So first of all, we'll be introducing our lovely staff here at UOVC. Many of them you already know. Next, we'll be talking about the funding that's available through our 5 funding sources, as well as the RFP timeline. After that, we'll be going through all of those UOVC tools and support. Again, like I said, that is all on the website, and there is a lot there, so make sure you're paying attention to that. Next, we'll be talking about the grant survey that we sent out last fall. Many of you saw that and participated in that, and we will be giving a summary on the feedback that we received. After which, we'll be talking about the application updates, as well as updates to the overall process that we've made this year, which a lot of it is based off of that feedback that we received. And last of all, we will be talking about the federal funding decision process, that some of the changes that we have made this year and some of the updates to hopefully make that better. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is very important, so listen up. We know a lot of people have questions. There's a lot of questions. Um, if you have questions during the webinar, please make sure to submit them on the question and answer tab, which is there at the bottom of your screen with the little question box that says Q&A. There's a good chance if they're put in the chat, we will not see them and they will not save for us later. The questions that go into that box there will be visible to the moderators and the moderators only. But also, please note that most of the answers that you will be seeking will likely be addressed either during this webinar, during one of the online training sessions, or in many of the additional materials online. So we understand that there might be quite a bit of questions, but we have a lot of information to cover today, and we need to stay on track. So our ability to answer live questions will be quite limited. You may see an answer to those in the chat, but more likely you will answer those at a later time. After the webinar, we will review all submitted questions and add responses to the open question and answer document on the website, which will be updated by the end of the week. So thank you for your understanding on that. All right, next slide. All right, here's my favorite part because I get to talk about my favorite people in the world. This is our team, the Victim Assistance Program at UOVC. Like I said, we're not going to be putting ourselves on camera right now just for visibility purposes, but many of you have met some of our team members, and if not, we'll get a chance to meet them at another time. They're wonderful. So there's me. My name is Tally. I've been here for quite a bit now, but I'm the Victim Assistance Program Manager here at UOVC. Maddie is our wonderful, amazing person behind the scenes doing all of this work with the slides, with the presentation. She is our program support specialist. We would die without her. Next, we have Mariah. She is our grants program manager, does a great job at that. And part of her program, she has Polly, who oversees our state victim services funding, as well as some VOCA grants as well. Bree, many of you have known Bree as she's been a monitor before for our program, and she is now serving as the VAWA program coordinator. We have Tiffany, who is a VOCA program analyst here. And then we also have a vacant spot as right now. Some of you may remember Danette. We love and miss Danette, but she's no longer working here. And so we have that open spot, which will be filled soon. Next, we have Melissa, who is over all of our sexual assault services programs and funding. And she has Shannon, who's the grant analyst that helps her with that. We have Wendy, who is our subrecipient monitoring manager, and Kaden, who is a subrecipient monitor as well. Some of you might have received emails from them or visits and things. And last, but of course not least, we have Vicki, who is our training and outreach program manager, who does all those great SWABO emails and SWABO trainings and academies and the great things you're seeing each week. And Beatrice, who we also love as well, who is working with Vicki in the training and outreach program. And they do a fantastic job. So really great, amazing staff. And I don't know, I just feel like I work with the greatest people every day. But I know you all feel that, which is also awesome. All right. Oh, and we'd also like to huge shout out to our sign language interpreters for all of their assistance during the training, as well as I got to give them a really round of applause. They sat through like days of recording sessions with us while we were getting all these videos done to make sure that they were all just right. So huge shout out to the interpreters. All right, next slide. Okay, many of you know we've had a little bit of change in the past year, and we have a new director, and we are thrilled to have Shalene here. She has been so amazing and so much fun to work with. We'd like to give some time over to her to say a few words. Many of you have had the opportunity to already meet Shalene, and if you haven't, you will definitely have an opportunity at another time. We were thrilled to have her join us last fall. Her resume and her experience in this work is quite inspiring, I must say. But what I've been most impressed about Shalene is her passion for this work, as well as her kind-hearted nature with all of us here at UOVC. It has really been just touching. I personally have had many conversations with her, long conversations about our mission going forward, and I can say that I'm really excited to see what lies ahead. So with that, I am going to turn the time over to her.
Thank you, Tally. That was a lovely introduction. I really appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I just first want to thank you all for the incredible work that you do. It's important work, it's challenging work, and I just appreciate you giving all of your passion to helping other people. So thank you for that. I have had a chance to meet some of you, and I look forward to hopefully meeting all of you in some place and time. I've been able to get out and visit some of the programs, the direct services, and have just been really inspired by the great work that's being done here in Utah. I'm also really grateful for the team that we have here. They are bright, dedicated, passionate, kind people who are doing also really difficult work. It's really difficult to make some of these decisions. You know, in a perfect world, everybody would have what they need. And that's right. That's the Holy Grail vision, that everybody has what they need. But we have limited resources, and we're going to be making tough decisions, and we're trying to make our process as easy as possible, as transparent as possible, as fair as possible. But regardless, these are tough decisions. So we will always welcome your feedback. We recognize that this is a continual improvement process, and we will always be striving to listen and to consider and to work hard to address everyone's concerns. So we hope that you partner with us and work towards doing what we can to provide the best services to the most people in our state. Some of the things that we've been working on internally is talking more and being more clear about our mission, which we feel is to address victims' needs statewide. We have sort of a working vision that we're refining, that we want to work with our partners to create a collaborative and strategic statewide approach that helps prevent vulnerable people from becoming victims and helps those who have become victims heal. Some of the values that will be guiding our work are equity, transparency, accessibility, ease, collaboration, integrity, efficacy, trauma-informed, and victim-centered. So we're just really excited about this process. I know there's a lot of unknowns, and it can be very challenging, but we're going to do our very best to communicate and help you through this. And once again, I just want to give another shout out to our team here and the tremendous hours that they put in, and they have painstakingly tried to be as responsive and as fair and as transparent as possible in this process. So thank you again for all that you do, and I look forward to continue working with all of you to make the biggest difference in our world possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Shalene. We're grateful to have you here and for your leadership at UOVC. Let's move into the 2025-2027 funding opportunities and timeline. With the notice of funding already released, this is an exciting time for Utah's victim service programs as we prepare for the upcoming grant cycle. Let's take a closer look at the total funding available and what to expect moving forward. This slide provides an overview of the funding available by program type. Releasing all funding opportunities at the same time allows Utah's victim service programs to strategically plan for the grant cycle. One thing to note is that all grants run from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2027, except for the Utah State Sexual Assault Victim Service Programs, which have a one-year award cycle, as you can see from the illustration on the slide. Each funding source has specific distribution methods and priorities. So applicants should carefully review the details to ensure their program aligns with the funding requirements. Comprehensive information on those requirements and application processes is available on the UOVC website and in your application instruction documents. I'll demonstrate how to access that information in just a few slides. Here I will provide an overview of the key dates for this RFP process. The Notice of Funding Opportunity, or the NOFO, has already been released, and today's live RFP training is happening right now, so thank you for being here. Additionally, several pre-recorded training sessions are already available on the UOVC website. These include an overview of the application process that is the same for all federal grants, specific webinars for VOCA, VAWA, SAS, the Utah Victim Service Programs, UVSP, and the Utah Sexual Assault Programs, USAP funding, as well as a pre-recorded training specifically there for new applicants. Speaking of new applicants, if you're a new organization or a new user for the GMS, please note that the GMS registration deadline is March 6, 2025. If that's you, please email Mariah Pease at mpease@utah.gov with your agency's details to get your account set up. If you're applying for any of the following grants, VOCA, VAWA, SAS, State Sexual Assault Culturally Specific Programs, and State SANE Programs, please make sure to complete the Intent to Submit form. Please note this form is not required for the other state programs, as they're either formula-based or continuation grants. Make sure to submit your form by March 6, 2025. It's a quick step, but it's essential in helping us prepare for a smooth and efficient review process. Now let's discuss technical support during this process. If your organization is unable to access the Grant Management System, or the GMS, or the RFP training materials needed to submit an application due to having limited internet access or other specific barriers, please reach out to UOVC directly at 801-238-2360 or by emailing uovcgrants@utah.gov to explore alternative options for submitting your application. If you encounter any technical issues directly related to the GMS website, please contact Mariah Pease at mpease@utah.gov, and she will assist you in resolving the issue. We'll cover the public Q&A in more detail in the next section, but I want to give you a quick heads up. The Q&A period will be open from January 29th through March 6th. During this time, UOVC staff will monitor questions closely and respond within 1 to 2 business days. Just a quick note, the public Q&A form is only for federal grant applicants, specifically VOCA, VAWA, and SASP grants. If you're applying for state grants, please reach out directly to the state funding coordinators. For questions regarding UVSP grants, please contact Polly Romine at PROMINE@utah.gov. And for USAP funding questions, reach out to Melissa Wayment at MWAYMENT@utah.gov. We'll go over the Q&A and technical support in more depth in just a moment, but this gives you a quick overview of who to reach out to and when. Now let's talk about deadlines. This is a big one, so make sure to mark your calendar, set a reminder, whatever you need to do, don't miss this date. Applications are due in the GMS on or before March 13th, 2025 at 6 p.m. If for any reason you need to use an alternative submission method, you must get prior approval from UOVC. Otherwise, applicants submitted outside of the GMS will not be accepted. Applications will be reviewed from March 17th to May 30th, with preliminary award notifications being sent to applicants between June 2nd and June 4th. This timeline is earlier than in years past, so we hope it gives applicants plenty of time to plan and prepare for the upcoming grant cycle. Once you receive your preliminary award notifications, applicants will have from June 2nd to June 25th to finalize any revisions for their applications. UOVC expects to finalize contracts and issue award letters between June 26th and June 30th, ensuring everything is ready for your grant to begin on July 1st, 2025. Before we move on to the next slide, just a final note. UOVC will be issuing our call for reviewers in the next few weeks. All grant applications must go through a peer review process, and we'll be sending out an email asking anyone interested to fill out an application through Google Forms. One new thing we're doing this year is expanding our reviewer pool to include experts outside of Utah, like other state administrating agencies, program managers, and more. So stay tuned for more information and be on the lookout for that notice coming in the next few weeks. Next slide. Let's take a look at navigating the UOVC website and the tools and resources available to you during this RFP process. The UOVC website is a valuable resource, so I'll guide you through how to access key items like templates, forms, and resources. Maddie, if you wouldn't mind clicking into or sharing the UOVC website. We're sorry, everyone, just a moment. We're just having a technical difficulty. We just want to bring up the UOVC website to show you all. There we go. The grants tab is the one most relevant for this RFP. On the landing page, you click on the grants tab. You'll see recent emails and important announcements from UOVC. Beneath that, there's a calendar that lists important dates and deadlines for UOVC recipients. Before diving into the subsections under the Grants tab, I want to briefly show you what's available for each grant source: VOCA, VAWA, SASP, USAP, and UVSP. These sections all have a similar structure and include, for VOCA, you'll see, again, a similar structure. All of them will include general information and eligibility details, a list of allowable and unallowable costs, and current subawards for each grant type. You'll also find links to related documents along the left-hand side in each of those sections. Now let's go into more detail on the subsections under the Grants tab. The first one, the UOVC GMS tab, takes you directly to the Grant Management System sign-in page, where you'll complete and submit your application. There are instruction packets and pre-recorded webinars that guide you through the GMS site, and I'll show you how to access those in just a moment. The Grants Training tab. This section provides recordings of various trainings related to our grants. The grant solicitation page is where I would like to focus. This page has everything you need to support your grant writing and application submission. Let's walk through what's available throughout the whole overall format of the grant solicitation page. The RFP training webinar guide, right there, is designed to provide quick access to our pre-recorded trainings. As you can see, the recordings are clearly titled, so you can easily find the one relevant to the grant you're applying for. For those new to applying for the UOVC grant, we've included a pre-recording training specifically for first-time applicants. After this live training is being recorded, and will be uploaded soon. These trainings are meant to complement the information in the grant-specific application instruction packets. Please take time to watch the videos, read through the instruction packets as you prepare, write, and submit your applications. Towards the bottom of this guide, you'll find links to a YouTube playlist with all of the recordings and a Google folder that houses attendee resources and handouts, including presentation slides and written transcripts for each of the trainings. Under the Google Forms to Complete section, you'll see the Intent to Submit link. Clicking this link will take you to a brief Google form, which we're asking you to complete by March 6, 2025. One key question to note is, which grant do you intend to apply for? If the grant you wish to apply for is not listed on this form, then you do not need to complete the form. This form helps us track interest and prepare for the application review process. Next, I want to take just a moment to show and explain two key tools: the public Q&A submission form and the posted answers to submitted questions. The public Q&A submission form is where you can submit any questions you have about the federal RFP process. This ensures all applicants have access to the same information and clarifications. This form will be available until March 6th. Once questions are submitted, the posted answers to submitted questions section is updated with responses. This is where you can find answers to questions you have submitted, as well as any previously asked questions. These tools are here to ensure transparency and equal access to information for all applicants. The next section covers helpful rules and guides. I want to highlight the UOVC screening and review criteria document. Please note this document covers the review process for federal grants only. Please refer to the state instruction packets for information on the state applications review processes. We've provided a similar document in past years, but I want to emphasize it this year because, as you'll learn later in this training, the screening and review process for federal applications has been updated. This document outlines every step of the application review process, from pre-screening to award determination. It includes both the external and internal scoring sheets, breaking down each scorable section and detailing the weight of each question. I can't stress enough how important it is to familiarize yourself with the document and refer to it often as you write your application. Keep your reviewers in mind throughout the process and use this guide to ensure your application aligns with the criteria. As you plan and write your budget, it's important to keep a few key resources in mind: the DOJ Financial Guide, the State of Utah Travel Policy, and the GSA Travel Guide. These guides will help ensure that your budget aligns with federal guidelines and complies with policy requirements. You'll also find the preferred list of in-state training for victim service providers. If you're requesting training in your budget, please refer to this list of UOVC approved in-state training. If the training you wish to attend is on this list, you can simply write pre-approved in-state training on the budget line item. However, if the training isn't listed, you'll need to specify the title of the training and provide additional details about it in the justification box. This ensures clarity and helps streamline the approval process for training requests. Another document I'd like to highlight under the All Grants Helpful Rules and Guides is the UOVC Applicant Contract Authorized Official Attestation Form. That's a mouthful. This form is essential for meeting certain requirements, which are clearly outlined in the document. For example, if your organization is awarded a grant, the authorized official will need to sign the certified assurances and grant conditions before the grant can be finalized and activated. In cases where the authorized official wants to delegate signing authority to someone else within the organization, this form must be completed and submitted to authorize that delegation. Let's move to helpful rules and guides and required attachments by the specific grant type. The format for these sections will be the same regardless of the grant you're applying for. You will see sections for VOCA, VAWA, SAS, UVSP, and USAP listed in that order. For the purposes of this training, I'll be using VOCA as the guide to walk through these sections. I cannot stress enough how important the first link you'll see under each funding source. The 2025 to 2027, it'll say the specific grant, application instruction packet. Please make sure to read this document thoroughly. This packet will help ensure that you're aligned with all necessary requirements and expectations for the specific grant you're applying for. Something new this year for the federal grants is the grant-specific companion guides. This is a fluid document, meaning it will be updated as needed throughout the life of the award. It's designed to help subrecipients manage their awards effectively and covers important topics such as grant basics, programmatic guidelines, award management, and more. We hope this resource will provide you with the tools you need to successfully implement your project while meeting federal guidelines. Under each grant, you will find many links listed under helpful rules and guides. We've tried to title these links in a way that gives you a clear idea of what they're about. But if you're ever unsure, I highly encourage you to click on the link, open it, and read through the content. If you're still unaware or unsure about its purpose after reviewing it, feel free to submit a question through the Q&A, and we're happy to provide clarification. Finally, let's talk about the required attachments. If a form is listed under required attachments for the grant you're applying for, then it is mandatory. Make sure to complete and upload these forms in the GMS. If you need instructions on how to complete any of the required forms, again, please refer to your grant-specific instruction packet, where you'll find step-by-step guidance. At the very bottom of the page, again, you'll find the timeline for the application process, which we've already gone over in detail. It serves as a quick reference to ensure you're aware of key dates and deadlines throughout the application process. This wraps up our section on navigating the UOVC website and the tutorial on how to access the resources available to you. Now I'll turn it back over to Tally, who will discuss the grant survey feedback.
Thank you very much, Mariah. Like I said, there is a lot of great emails. I was looking at my emails. A lot of great information on that website. I have seen a couple questions trickle in. We may be able to get to those, but right now we're going to continue forward with the presentation as planned. Okay, scroll down just a little bit here. Okay. All right. This last fall, as many of you were aware, we were able to collaborate with the University of Utah Masters of Public Administration, so Masters of Public Policy program, where they assisted us with a survey of our grants funding processes. Many of you had the opportunity to fill out the survey, and we are very grateful for your feedback. The summary of this survey with a more detailed report can be found on that same website that Mariah was just at, if you would like some light reading there. Okay, next slide. All right, here was our overall purpose of the survey when we reached out to the MPP program, if they could help us out. The first being to assess and improve UOVC's grant application process and funding strategies. Always a big one. Gather feedback from current and potential subgrantees on barriers to accessibility, clarity of the application procedures, and perceived fairness of funds distribution. as well as to use survey insights to ensure an equitable funding structure for victim services programs statewide. The survey was organized into the following areas. The first part was demographics of the respondents by program or agency type, such as nonprofits or city, local governments, geographic area, as well as budget size of the organization. We asked about barriers to applying for funds. That was more specific to those programs that do not currently receive UOVC funds. And then we asked for feedback in several areas, feedback on the application, feedback on the RFP training and technical assistance, feedback on the screening allocation process, and just other general feedback. After we review these survey results, we will be talking a little bit more about the changes we have made to these particular areas based on this feedback. Next slide. Okay, so as probably many of you received this email many times, we apologize, but we wanted to make sure it went out there. So it was sent to over 2,600, at least, victim services providers across the state, and we received 205 respondents. Of those respondents, 86% currently receive funding from UOVC, and those program budgets ranged from anywhere less than $100,000 to over $3 million. So quite a range there. In the agency types, a good portion came from law enforcement prosecutor's office. And then we also received quite a bit from sexual assault and/or domestic violence service providers. We received an equal amount of programs that assist victims of child abuse, underserved or tribal populations, and legal services. And then we had a little smattering of higher education, forensic, military, etc. So we felt like that was a pretty good spread. And then we were able to get also a good spread of respondents from different parts of the state, be it urban, suburban, or rural, tribal, as well as programs that assist people in those areas. Okay, let's see here. Next slide, yeah. Okay, one of our first questions was to people who don't currently have our funds, is what factors are preventing them from applying for our funds? The top answer, and this was one of those check all that are apply. So if you're like me and trying to add up the percentages, it won't work, okay? But the grant funding was too unstable or not guaranteed was the first reason why many programs just did not feel comfortable applying. The second reason was requirements of the federal grant were too burdensome. Third, they were not aware of the funding opportunities. Next, they did not understand how to apply. They applied but didn't receive funds. A few didn't have time, and just a little bit, their grants did not align with agency mission needs. And that was probably most likely because we sent the survey out specifically to victim services providers. So we did not have a whole lot that answered that question. Okay, next slide. Okay, next we asked for feedback on the grant application itself, as well as this RFP training and all of those accompanying materials. We received quite a bit of positive feedback about the grant application being clear to follow, with approximately 70% agreeing or strongly agreeing with that, and only 2% disagreeing. And then another good amount saying that the RFP training was able to help people understand the application with about, let's see, math's a little bit hard today, 83%-ish people for that, as well as 13% neutral. So that was positive. We want to look into a little bit more about the specific feedback that we received from the application and the training. So let's go to the next slide. So as we gathered feedback on the federal grant application process, there were a few key takeaways that I'd just like to sum up here. First of all, many agencies have expressed that the application was quite a bit of work to complete, as I'm sure you can probably all agree. And any reductions to that workload would be appreciated. We did also receive positive feedback from some, with some commenters noting that this application is actually more streamlined than other federal grants they applied for. And in addition, some agencies requested more time to write their grant applications, and they emphasized the importance of receiving the final decision sooner, so that it would allow them to adjust their budgets accordingly. So in the next section, Melissa is going to talk to us a little bit about the changes we've made to the application process to hopefully address that. Okay, next slide. Okay, we also received quite a bit of valuable feedback in regards to the training itself, alongside the grant application process. Many participants appreciated having all of those accompanying materials like the video recording and written instructions. Next slide. However, some felt the videos were a little bit lengthy and expressed a preference for one-on-one assistance to complete their applications. And there was a strong request to tailor the training sessions with a shorter version for the more seasoned applicants and a more in-depth session for new programs. Okay, next slide. Okay, in regards to the actual screening allocation process, we definitely had the greatest variety of responses on this one. As you can see, 20% of the respondents were not familiar with the process, and that can be understandable. We know many of them don't have our funds or are new or maybe just don't know. But then after that, we did have about 60% that agreed or strongly agreed with the question UOVC's screening allocation process provides for fairness, with 13% neutral and 8% disagree. So, like I said, we have had a great variety of responses in this specific one. So we've broken those down into three main areas where we see the most feedback, which was in regards to the peer review or the subject matter expert process, UOVC staff role, and then the scoring rubric that was used. Okay, next slide. Okay, we are going to talk about the feedback that's on the peer review process. Many participants appreciated the opportunity to engage in the peer review process themselves. You know, many of them said that they learned quite a bit on how to write a better application and what we're looking for, participating in that. They also noted the transparency it brings by involving the external reviewers. However, there were some who raised concerns about the reviewers' level of skill and expertise, questioning whether they could fairly evaluate the grants, and others voiced concerns about potential biases from reviewers that could influence the funding decisions. So we're a little bit mixed on those responses. Also, in regards to UOVC's role in the screening and allocation, similar to the peer review process, many appreciated UOVC's involvement in providing information and context to the peer reviewers, noting that this helped create balance in the evaluations. However, on the other hand, some expressed concerns that UOV's participation in the external and the peer reviews could introduce its own bias into the process. Okay, next slide. Okay, and then lastly, some commenters requested a clear understanding of the factors that influence the scoring process and how these scores are ultimately used in the funding decisions. After Melissa talks a little bit more about the changes to the grant process, I will be going over some of the changes that we've made to the screening and allocation process in order to address these concerns. Okay, next slide. Okay, then we got quite a bit of feedback on just our overall grant processes outside of just the application, but just grant processes throughout the lifetime of the grant. So some of the feedback talked about overall grant management and talked about a lot of the challenges associated with its requirements. Commenters were very kind, expressing appreciation for the support provided by UOVC. We received quite a bit of that, and that was very nice. Thank you. So while this training focuses specifically on the grant RFP and application, we want to assure you that UOVC continues to work on ways to reduce the administrative burden for the subgrantees, and updates on these efforts will be shared later on in this presentation and as in the months to come as well. So we're excited for that as well. Next slide. On a final note for this section, we really want to thank everybody for those of you who understand these difficult challenges as federal funds are decreasing. This is a difficult situation for everybody involved, and we're doing our best to navigate through it. We recognize there's continual funding decreases, and it's a tough time for all of us. But despite these challenges, we remain committed to doing everything we can to serve victims and make the best out of a very challenging situation. And your support and understanding make all the difference as we move forward together. And if I can take just a minute Okay, why don't we hand it over to Melissa, and then she's going to talk a little bit about the award cycle changes. Thanks.
Thank you, Callie. Now we would like to share some of the updates on the work our grants team has been doing to improve the request for proposal process and enhance the overall grant management experience. Some of the changes we will review apply to all funding sources and some that are specific to federal awards only. So please listen for that distinction. You can always refer back to your application instructions for specifics on the funding sources that you are applying for. I also want to acknowledge that for some of you, this information is completely new. That's perfectly okay. For others who have received funding through our office before, this section is meant to highlight significant changes, and hopefully we can really all celebrate how those updates will make things easier moving forward. Over the past few months, we've carefully reviewed every step of the RFP process with the goal of making it more efficient, less overwhelming, and easier for applicants to navigate. We've focused on areas that have historically been sources of confusion or frustration for applicants, looking for ways to reduce unnecessary effort while maintaining compliance with both our federal funding and state regulations. Something we have always needed to consider is that even the smallest change requires a high level of scrutiny to ensure that they don't create an unintended challenge later on. Many of these changes directly address concerns and suggestions from the survey we just heard about, and we want you to know that we hear you, we are listening, and trying to understand the challenges that you're facing. And finally, many of this year's challenges reflect our belief that programs know their communities best. You have the expertise to make financially and programmatically responsible decisions, and we trust you to maximize your limited resources and use them as effectively as possible. The following are some overall changes that we have made to the RFP process. The timeline adjustments. We've moved the entire process up about a month and added an additional week and a half for applicants to complete their applications. This extra time is intended to reduce stress and give everyone a little more breathing room during the submission process. Award notifications and requested revisions will be sent to applicants between June 2nd and June 4th, with all revisions finalized by June 24th. This will ensure agencies have their approved budgets ready to start for the award year July 1, providing certainty for programs on where they can allocate and bill program expenses. The RFP training, we're reducing the length of the live webinar to approximately 3 hours. This session will focus on delivering the most essential information, ensuring that the time spent together is efficient and impactful. To offer greater flexibility, programs now have the option to watch specific training modules at their convenience. These modules are designed to provide the information you need to complete your application, allowing you to learn at your own pace and revisit that content as needed. All recordings will include an ASL interpreter, and each module is accompanied by a full transcript, written application instructions, and PowerPoint slides for reference. We hope these updates will make the training process more user-friendly and adaptable, giving you the tools you need and resources to navigate the applications successfully. This year, we are excited to introduce a new tool called the Companion Guide. This guide is designed to support you through every phase of managing your federal funded project, from application to closeout. It will provide detailed information on program requirements, funding management, compliance, and guidelines that are specific to UOVC. Now, the companion guide is intended to be a living resource, so you will have a viewable Google document, and that will be updated by our staff as new information becomes available or clarification is needed. We do welcome your feedback with this. Please let us know what you have found helpful with this and if there is additional information that you would like to see added. To improve clarity in the application process, we've also streamlined the application instructions, this focusing solely on information to complete the application. The more detailed content, such as funding priorities, allowable costs, program guidelines, have all been moved over to the companion guide. And as we mentioned earlier, we recognize that some programs may face challenges accessing RFP information, whether due to limited internet access or language barriers. And so to address these challenges, UOVC is offering alternative methods to ensure that programs receive the same essential application details. If a program requests alternative methods, we will provide the same critical information through other formats, ensuring that there's fairness and transparency through the whole process. Any specific questions answered by UOVC for an individual program will be included on that Q&A response form. We do hope that this approach reflects our commitment to creating an inclusive and equitable process where every program has the opportunity to participate fully, regardless of access challenges. Our next section is referring to mostly federal application changes. While we have tweaked some issues with our state applications, we have thankfully had the ability to make those fairly streamlined already. So for our application this year, we conducted a detailed review of all questions and forms to ensure we're only requesting the most relevant and necessary information. Many of those questions have been reworded for clarity, making them easier to understand and respond to. To further support applicants, we've added pop-up instructions throughout the application, which provides specific guidelines and examples to help you understand exactly what the reviewer is looking for. If you've applied in the past, we really encourage you to take the time to review those updated instructions. Some long-standing questions may have shifted in purpose or meaning, so it's important to make sure that your response aligns with that updated expectation. We also conducted a thorough review of all application forms to identify and remove duplicate questions and repetitive sections. We do believe that these updates have made the application process much shorter and less burdensome. This is allowing applicants to focus on providing clear and meaningful information about their programs without any unnecessary repetition. One of our major goals this year has been to simplify the language across all applications, forms, and resources, making it easier for everybody to understand. We've put in a lot of effort to remove jargon and streamline the wording in the application, ensuring that the process is clear and accessible for everyone. And while we've made great progress, we do understand that simplifying language is an ongoing effort. Some of our federal guidelines require specific language or phrasing, and that can make simplification much more challenging. So we will continuously work to refine the language as much as possible. We are also very excited to announce the pilot of a new process for developing program plans within VAWA and SASP applications. This new process is designed to streamline reporting by aligning the program activities with the annual report required by the Office on Violence Against Women. The process includes completing an external form titled the VAWA or SASP Required Information. This form will be integrated into the application process and uploaded as part of your submission. The form's questions are specifically designed to match the information that you will include in your progress reports and annual report. This means programs will no longer need to submit separate progress reports with distinct goals and objectives alongside annual reports that have different data requirements. For more details about this process, just refer to your application instructions for both VAWA and SASP. As you are working on completing your federal application budget, you'll notice a few new features in the system. For each budget entry, the system will now prompt you to provide a cost justification. This means you no longer need to complete a separate budget justification form. Everything you need will be entered directly into the system as part of the application process. In addition, we've updated our approach to budget allowability. Our guidelines now apply consistently across federal funding sources, meaning there are no UOVC specific restrictions tied to individual funding streams. However, it is important to note that each applicant must use their discretion and understanding of federal guidelines to determine what is allowable under the funding source that they are applying for. You'll also need to ensure that your budget requests are reasonable, considering the availability of the funding. And lastly, after the screening and allocation process is over and an applicant receives a request for budget revisions, they will receive a total award amount and be asked to rework their budget at their discretion. Unless we are requesting you to remove an unallowable item, we will not be giving specific instructions on how to complete your budgets. This revised budget must still incorporate allowable costs and supports that intended for the intended program plan outlined in your previous application. Next are some overall changes that will affect award management during this cycle. These are just highlights, but more information will be coming after awards have been made. For the 2025-2027 grant cycle, UOVC will be implementing a statewide match waiver for VOCA funding. UOVC will require all applicants to follow the statewide match waiver, meaning that applicants should not include any match items in their budget or program plan. This decision has been made to enhance accessibility to VOCA funding, particularly for those programs that may struggle to meet traditional match requirements. By removing this requirement, we can reduce the administrative workload for agencies, allowing them to focus more time on resources and providing essential services to victims without the burden of tracking and reporting match contributions. And starting this year, progress reports will now be required semi-annually, twice per year, on January 30th and June 30th, instead of quarterly. This change specifically applies to the program plan you developed as part of your application. And as a note, this does apply to both federal and state awards. This adjustment is intended to streamline the reporting process, reduce the burden on programs, and allow more focus on delivering services and achieving program goals. It is important to note that while the progress reports are now less frequent, programs should use their own discretion to decide how often to compile data and create internal reports. Regular tracking will help ensure accuracy and readiness for reporting deadlines. We also want to clarify that this new reporting schedule does not apply to the VOCA PMT or performance management tool. The VOCA PMT remains a federally mandated report and will still need to be required quarterly. Regarding award amendments, an award amendment is a formal request to modify the terms or details of a grant award, such as budget allocations or program activities during the award year. Our guidelines for award amendments have been updated to ensure consistency across all federal funding sources. Programs can request amendments at their discretion up until the 11th month of the award, which will always be May. It is important to note that submitting an amendment request does not guarantee approval, and we strongly encourage you to complete and submit any amendment requests as early as possible within the award year. All amendment requests will be reviewed by the entire grants team and must meet standards governed by federal and state guidelines. We would encourage applicants to review the amendment guidelines that is laid out in your companion guide. Another exciting new change for our office is around the use of gift cards. UOVC has updated its guidelines for the use of gift cards to align with recently established national best practices. A significant change is that with certain policies in place, programs may now be reimbursed for providing gift cards to clients without requiring clients to submit receipts. This update reflects the collective efforts of advocates across the U.S. whose voices have helped secure approval for this practice from our federal funding entities. It is important to note that programs must have specific policies in place to implement this change effectively and ensure compliance. For more information about all of that, please refer to the gift card guidelines section of your companion guide. And finally, UOVC is actively engaged in discussions about potential changes to additional award management coming up over the next 2-year cycle. Once these updates are finalized, we will promptly share them with all of the programs. And our goal is to make this application and grant management process as streamlined and efficient as possible for all of our programs. And that is all I have on my section. Thank you, Maddie.
Okay, Maddie, can you take down the slides for just a second, please? Okay, I promised my team I would not go off script, and here I am going off script. But we have received quite a bit of concerned messages, and texts and emails and chats. Just want to let you know, I have received them all. Many of you may or may not know that last night, the Office on Management and Budget, the federal office, issued a memo in regards to federal grant funds. And for right now, some of you might have seen that memo. If you haven't, I'm sure it will be circulating around right now. Let me actually just read a couple of things really quick, because I know enough people are already really worried, and I want to let you know what I know, which, spoiler alert, is not much. But this memo is specifically to federal agencies, okay, like the Department of Justice that funds our grants. So it says, agencies later than February 10th, 2025, agencies shall submit to OMB detailed information on any programs, projects, activities subject to this pause. Each agency must pause the issuance of new awards, disbursement of federal funds under all open awards, and 3 other relevant agency actions that may be implicated by the executive orders. So what I want to say on this is that when I received this information, oh, is the sound really bad for a lot of people, or is it just, can you guys let me know? I'm seeing the interpreter maybe saying yes. Sound is bad, sound is bad. Okay, give me just 1 second. Stand by. I apologize. Oh, terrible. Okay. Stand by just a second. Okay, it is one of those days. Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes. I'm probably lagging now, or my sound is bad. I will go with the lagging. I think on my laptop, my camera's better, but the sound is bad. On my big screens, the camera's better, the sound is good. It feels like one of those days. Can I just tell you that, you guys? And here we are rolling with it. So what I wanted to say about this letter is that I received this late last night as I was finishing up my presentation, and we have not received specific word from our federal funders yet. Of course, the first thing I did, like all of you, was reach out to the director of OVC and my federal funder to see what is happening. And I'm sure his inbox is full. Now I feel a little bit bad, but not that bad. And so we have not received anything yet from our federal funders. So I just jumped on here to say that we're not exactly sure yet what this means for us. You know, I've also received emails from the state and higher up above me. And so we will be letting you know and sending out written information to everybody to see when there is a plan made and what might happen next. But like I said, this halts the issuance of new federal awards. The awards that we are talking about today have already been issued, and we're on the state level. So our plans are to still finish the training. You all can still, go ahead and start working on applications and whatnot. Those will not be due until March. We will definitely have some more information before March. I'm hoping before the end of the day, but we don't know. And so, like I said, we will be going forward with this training. We don't have much information as far as, the federal awards and what that is like. But when I can get more information, I promise I will send it all. And I really appreciate you guys holding tight for now. That's about all I got for that. So sorry about that. And I definitely understand. Billing for current awards, if you guys have a bill, submitted with us, like a billing with us right now, and our analysts are processing it. As of this very moment at 10:06 a.m., I believe we are still processing payments. So that is just fine. But again, I apologize for not having very much information. My hope was to hold off on that, but here we are. Okay. The sound is better now, right? Cool. All right, guys. I feel like that parent that has to tell all the kids, we're okay, everyone's gonna be fine. Don't worry, everything is fine. We're all fine. Okay, let's get the slideshow back up. Let's play a movie. Okay, here we go. Thanks, Kate. We're all okay. Everything is gonna be okay. We're gonna take some deep breaths, do some meditations. You know, we've been through tougher stuff before, I've got to say, and we roll with it. You know, we our priority is you all. You know, we are always doing everything we can to make your lives better. I know it probably doesn't feel like that, but we know you guys are doing the hard work on this field, and this is scary. And you know, we're out here for you. So I just wish I knew more. You're welcome to call me. We can chat, but I don't really have much else besides that. Thanks for the hearts, though. Love those. Okay. Well, this changed the course of my day. I'm just trying to find my slides. Okay, back on track. I promise I'm going back on script now. Okay. We do have some more changes for our screening and allocation review. Please keep in mind that this is just for the federal funds. So if you are only getting state funds, you're welcome to tune out right now. This won't apply to the state funding grants, but it will apply to all 3 of our federal funding grants. Again, please pay very close attention. Some of the elements have changed this year. More detailed information, like we said, we'll just keep repeating it. Can be found online, will be found online. And I, again, would highly encourage everyone to review the document that is online that's talking about the screening allocation criteria, as it gives very specific information about what will be reviewed in your application. I kind of like to refer it, I was a tutor in college, like that's your basic test study guide. You know, I mean, I'd look that over because that's what it's going to be. Okay, next slide. Okay. Oh, and I get to go off camera again. It's lovely. Okay. Okay, the federal funding decision process has 4 steps, and we'll highlight each of these in more details in the following slides. Most of you guys will recognize these are the same 4 steps from previous years. So please take note of the changes that we made in the external, which we used to call subject matter expert or SME review, and the internal, which we used to call a management review, as we change some of those processes, and then also for the final review and determination. Okay, next slide. Starting with the pre-screen. This is the easy part. Most of you guys should all pass that, unless there's things I don't know. But all federal grants must pass through a pre-screen in order to ensure that the application meets basic eligibility requirements in order to be considered for federal funding. This is mostly just a checkbox. The only change on this year is that we're asking applicants to fill out this questionnaire. Usually our staff have it that we fill out on the back end for them when we receive the applications. These questions are not too difficult, I promise. They're just basic yes/no questions about your organization, like if you're a nonprofit or a government, you provide services to victims of crime, etc. The questionnaire is different for VAWA, VOCA, and SASP. So if you're applying for each of those awards, you will need to fill out a different questionnaire each time. If you're applying for the same VOCA award, you can just submit it on each award. It's just the same questionnaire. And it is listed as a required file on the website. And UOVC staff will review these forms upon receipt of the application. Okay, next slide. Okay, after the application passes pre-screen, it will then get moved on to the external review process. We used to call this peer review or subject matter expert, SME. We just like to change words around. But is now known as external review. External reviewers like Mariah mentioned earlier, will be selected from a pool of applicants based on their experience with grants and victim services. And in the coming weeks, we will send out and post on our website and let people know there is a short application for those who may be interested in applying. We know many of you have done that before. If you'd like to come back and do that, you would just need to reapply. And reviewers will have the option to receive a monetary stipend as well for compensation for your time. As Mariah mentioned earlier, this year we are introducing an opportunity for individuals outside of Utah to participate in the grant review process. They will still need to meet the same criteria as reviewers from outside the state, including having substantial experience in victim services and federal grants such as VOCA, VAWA, SASP. Our goal with this is to enhance the review process by combining the expertise of individuals with Utah-specific victim services and those with extensive experience who bring in an external perspective. This approach aims to provide a more thorough and balanced review of all applications. And we hope that by combining external review committees with individuals who are both familiar with victim services specific to Utah and those with extensive experience in victim services but no prior connections to the local network, we can provide a more thorough and robust review of all applications. Many of our staff actually had the opportunity to review grants for a VOCA program in Wisconsin and kind of see their peer review process, and we learned quite a bit actually. And I've seen a few other peer review processes from other states, and it really is great to participate in. And so we hope we can get some external perspective from other individuals outside of us. Everyone who is selected as an external reviewer will still be required to complete specific training for the review process, along with conflict of interest and confidentiality forms. Okay, next slide. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the external review process itself. All external reviewers, once they're selected and approved, will receive a group of applications along with the specific criteria and grading instructions. There will be 4 main areas to score, as you see here, which align directly with the grant application. Reviewers are required to base their scores solely on the information provided in the application. So these 4 main sections, as you can see, are the statement of problem needing collaboration, program plan, certificate of collaboration and coordination, and forms and attachments. As you can see, these all look very familiar because these are all the same sections that you have on your grant application. This year, if you've noticed already, there is a significant change. While reviewers will be able to view and comment on the applicant's budget, they will not be making overall funding recommendations. So we will talk about that a little bit more. That is one change that we will be doing. As you can see in the slide, each section is weighted according to its importance in the overall application. Each reviewer will be provided a set of questions to evaluate how well each application addresses each of these sections. Again, you can find those questions in the guide that we referenced earlier on the website. Okay, once the reviewers have completed their individual evaluations, there will be an assigned day for them to meet as a group to discuss their scores. A new requirement this year is that reviewers must provide a score for each section of the application and include objective reasoning for their assessments. So this is new in that we have done, criteria and reviews and scoring in the past. However, this year we'll be much more stringent on reviewers needing to provide a very well documented score with specific reasoning why they were given the score that they were. And that will come into play a little bit later, but that is a very important part of the review. So if you're interested in being a reviewer, just know that the requirements are going to be a little bit higher because we do need to get some very thoughtful and objective scores from that. During the review meeting, reviewers will have the opportunity to adjust their scores that they originally made if they discover that any overlooked information had impacted their original evaluation. So that way we can make sure that we are all giving the most appropriate scores possible to each application. Finally, and this is also another big change if anybody has been a part of screening and allocation committees before, is that UOVC staff will not provide any input to the review committee at this stage. So our sole role will be to facilitate the discussion and make sure we're getting that appropriate information, and reviewers provide justified objective scores for the application. Okay. Right, next slide. Okay, so after these go through all of the external reviews, it will then move into the internal review. This is formerly known as the management review. And this will be conducted by UOVC grant staff as well as management. So similar to the external review, internal review will follow a very structured process. There will be a score sheet as well for internal reviewers to evaluate each program. And similarly, we will be, as UOVC, required to provide objective reasoning for all of our scores, which will be discussed in the internal review meeting. All of this information you can find, again, broken record over here on the website. The main areas of criteria for the internal review are a little bit different from the external review, as we are trying to get a more balanced review of all of the programs. So these are divided into 3 areas along with their importance and weighting and purpose. So the first and the most heavily weighted section is community impact and service provision. The main purpose of this being to assess the extent to which the proposed project addresses a critical community problem, fulfills an essential need in the service area, provides cost-effective and high-quality services, and collaborates effectively with community providers. The second section, and the second most important, is the budget and justification of need. The purpose being to evaluate the applicant's budget as well as justification for the costs, ensuring that the proposed expenses are reasonable, aligned with the program goals, and appropriate for the scope of services. It also assesses how well the applicant utilizes outside resources to supplement their project and manage funding effectively. And then the last tier that we'll be looking at, also important, just the lowest weighted is the program grant management. This purpose being to assess the applicant's history of grant management and their capacity to effectively administer their program, ensuring that they have demonstrated the ability to manage federal funds, meet performance outcomes, and comply with all applicable regulations. We understand that we will have a handful of new organizations that do not currently have grants with us. They will still be evaluated on their capacity and their ability to manage grant funds in the future for that section. We have a separate scoring section for that. Again, you can find more specific questions in the packet online. On a final note, there will also not be a budget recommendation from this group either. Okay, that will come in the next step. So there will be discussion and scoring on the budget, but there will not be a budget recommendation. Okay, next slide. Okay, the final step in the process. So once we've done quite a bit of work, received all the funding requests, gotten all the application scores, make sure they're just right, and gotten the average of the internal and the average of the external scores, etc. UOVC staff, grant staff management will use these scores in a calculation to determine how to adjust the total amount of requests to align to the total funds available. After the calculations, a final review will be conducted and funding recommendations will be presented to the Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice for review and approval. Many of you may remember we did have a board at the Utah Office for Victims of Crime. However, that board has since been repealed as of December 31st of 2024. So it is no longer. So now all of the grant decision making will go up to the overall commission or CCJJ. And they will be making those approvals. Once the final award amounts are reviewed and approved by CCJJ, UOVC will send letters to applicants notifying them of their approved funding. Like I said, we did move this up a little bit earlier this year. That will be in the beginning of June. And as well as any required revisions to their applications before finalization. Along with the award letter, applicants will receive an explanation of any reductions that may be made to their original request. And please note that all funding decisions are final. Okay, next slide. This is more specific to VOCA applicants. because that's where we get the question the most. So we get this question all the time. I usually don't really like to tell people how much they need to be asking for in their programs because everybody has different needs. And of course, we cannot make any type of promises about what they can get funded. However, we do understand that in previous years, especially when VOCA funds had decreased sharply, and then we did ask programs to take specific, 10%, 15%, 20% cuts. And so programs that receive current funds from VOCA may ask, do we need to take any required cuts? So for programs currently receiving VOCA funding and inquiring about parameters for the next funding cycle, we would like to clarify, we are not requiring programs to take any type of automatic decrease in their request for funding from their current award. That is not anything that we are asking at this time. Instead, we ask that programs carefully evaluate their budgets needs, additional resources, and funding caps for the upcoming 2-year funding period when submitting their requests. So as noted in the VOCA application recording, which you guys will see, or I know some people were already watching that, the overall VOCA award from the current cycle to the next 2-year cycle is going down by approximately 20%. But that is the overall award. So that does not mean that each and every program will experience exactly a 20% reduction from their current award. We specifically have some programs who have come to us and said, thank you, but we no longer need VOCA funding. Other programs said we need it now more than ever. So it's not within our best interest to tell people to make decreases when we do not know what the requests will be. As mentioned earlier, once applications have been thoroughly reviewed and scored, and the total amount of funding requests have been calculated, we'll use this objective data to determine how to adjust the total funding request to align with the total amount of funds available. And additionally, as is mentioned in the VOCA instructions, and this is new starting this cycle, an award ceiling will be implemented. This will not affect very many programs, very few, if at all, but programs may not request more than $500,000 per year or $1 million for a 2-year award. And that is for each VOCA award. We know there is a handful of people that have 2 VOCA awards. You may not request more than $500,000 per year per award. Okay, lots of serious stuff. Okay, we are at the end. We would like to thank everybody for taking your time to attend this training. We know that it's a lot of information and a lot of kind of scary things all at once. But, there's a lot of information to go in and read. Again, like I said, go to the website, go to the website, go to the website. We do have the question and answer form up and ready. If there are questions up here that you did not get answered, then you can find those and you can find those questions on the question and answer form, and we will answer them at that time. I will repeat, though, that please make sure you are reviewing all of the materials before you ask questions, because there's likely that the information is already in those materials, and the question and answer form will just direct you back to that to find that. Okay. We understand that there's a lot of information, and we hope with the earlier and extended timeline that can aid you in your efforts. Let's see here. A few other reminders. Application deadline, Thursday, March 16th, 6:00 p.m. That is Mountain Time. Please make sure you get it in at that time. For those of you who are used to, running in the door at 5 o'clock with your papers, this is an automated system, and it closes down, and not much we can do about that. So make sure it's in there. And then our main grant contact information is there at the bottom of the screen. If you do contact us with questions about the grant, though, you will need to go into the question and answer form. Are there any other thoughts or comments from my staff before we sign off? Okay. Wow, we did get done early. That's great. Good job, everybody, and good luck with everything. And we will be in touch. Thank you all.